Alright, let's go ahead and get started. Today we are going to be talking about Lesson 3-5, Equations, Tables, and Graphs. And our objective of our lesson today is to generate different representations of the same data, meaning make a table, a graph, or maybe an equation. Alright, so let's take a look at our first slide here. Alright, as you can see, our first slide here tells us that give us our example over here, that the height of an airplane in s seconds from takeoff is h equals, that should say h equals 15 s. Okay, and what that is telling us is that's our equation. Our height equals 15 times the seconds. It says make a table and sketch the graph of the equation. Well, we have our equation right here. Okay, so if we were to make a table, our s right here, we're just gonna number those with consecutive numbers, meaning we're gonna start with 0 and go to 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then we're gonna substitute those values into my equation. Okay, because we know, again, our equation, we just had that, was h equals 15 s. So, whenever I substitute 0 in there, like 15 times 0, and then 15 times 1, and then 15 times 2, and then 15 times 3, and 15 times 4, gives me these values in my table right over here. Okay, now we have to graph that. Okay, we simply make our graph, has our s on our x-axis here, has our h on our y-axis. Okay, we know what our s's are, we set those up as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have our C here, our 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we went ahead and put a 5 on here also. And we know our height because we solved for that. Remember, right over here, we did 15 times 0. That gives us our first plot right there. 15 times 1 gives us 15. 15 times 2 gives us 30. 15 times 3 gives us 45. 15 times 4 gives us 60. Okay, that gives us our graph right there. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so let's take a look at our next slide. Alright, the next one wants us to make a table. It says use the table to make a graph and write an equation. The writing equation part is probably the hardest part of your lesson today, and I'll show you why it's difficult to teach. But let's go ahead and graph these. Remember, your ordered pairs are always going to be x, then y, and it's always going to go left and right first, then up and down. Okay, so remember we have to go left and right first. So our first one we have 0. So we're going to stay on 0, then we have to go up 3, which is going to be right here. So that's our first point. Okay, our next one says 1, 4, so we have to go over to the 1, up 4, which gives us a point right there. The next one is 2, 5, so we have to go over 2, up 5. And our last one here is 3, 6, so we go over 3, up 6, which gives me one right there. Now if we draw our straight line through that, we get something that looks like that. Okay? Now, in order to figure out what kind of an equation we have here, we're basically going to look at the x and say, what are we doing to the x to get it to be y? Okay? What are we doing to the x to get it to be y? So, essentially what we're asking ourselves on this first one is, what are we doing to 0 to get it to be 3? Okay? What are we doing to 0 to get it to be 3? Well, there's really only one thing we can do to 0 to get it to be 3, and that's add 3. Okay? So, let's try that. If we take our 0 plus 3, that gives us 3. Let's try our next line right here, the 1. Okay, so if we plug in 1, plus 3, that gives us 4. Let's try the next one, 2. 2 plus 3 gives me 5. So we can see we've already determined our pattern. We're adding 3 to our x each time. So if we're going to write that as an equation, we would have to write, basically, what are we doing? Well, we're taking our x value and adding 3 to it. So it would be like maybe y equals x plus 3. Okay, or you could do x plus 3 equals y, something along those lines. Okay, so as you can see, we need to start with the 0, and that gives us an idea, and we need to test it out with all of our others to see if it still works. Alright, let's take a look at our next one. Alright, this is actually our final example. It says, use the graph to make a table and write an equation. Well, we already have our table right here. Now, if we did have a graph, all we would have to do is take our x's and our y's and fill them into a table just like that that we have here, and that would that'd give you your table. Okay, but let's take a look at this one and see if we can figure out what exactly is going on in order for us, what we're doing to our t column here to get it to be the d column. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have to do here first, our 0 to get 2. Well, we know that we could do 0 plus 2. That gives us 2, doesn't it? Sure. Well, let's see if that'll work for our next one, the 1 and the 4. Okay, so if we have 1 plus 2, what does that give us? Well, that gives us 3. Uh-oh, we didn't want 3. We wanted 4. That's what we were supposed to have. Okay, so now we need to go back and reevaluate what we were doing to this first one right here to get 2. What else can we do to 0 to get it to be 2? Well, I guess we could multiply it times anything, because that'll give us 0, and then add 2 to it, and that will give us 2. But that doesn't help us much with the 1 down here. So let's take a look at this this one right here. Okay, because I need it to equal 4. So, what are we going to do to get that to equal 4? Well, we just decided that we're going to have to add 2 to something to get it to equal 2, because that's the only way we're going to be able to get my answer for my first one up here. Okay? So, well, what plus 2 equals 4? Well, 2 equals 4. So I need to go back over here and look at this. Well, I have 1 right here. Well, what times 1 equals 2? Well, 2 times 2 equals, or excuse me, 1 times 2 equals 2. So let's see if we could do that. 1 times 2. So we have 1 times 2 is 2, plus 2 equals 4. Good. Let's try that back up here at the top. Well, for the top, remember, we have 0, so it would be like 0 times 2. Well, 0 times 2 is 0 plus 2 equals 2. That works. So let's try the next one. Let's try the 2 down here. So if we have 2 times 2 is 4 plus 2 equals 6. Hey, that one worked out. Good. Let's try the last one just to confirm it. So we have 3 times 2 is 6 plus 2 equals 8. Alright, that one was it. So our equation here is going to be, if I was using my variables that I have here, which was a t and a d, that would be like I was doing t times 2 plus 2 equals d. Okay, now like I said, some of these are pretty difficult to understand, but you'll get a better understanding of it once we do a few of these on our assignment, and I'll help you out tomorrow through a couple of them. So hopefully you'll be able to do it on your own. But this particular topic is pretty difficult and can sometimes well, be a challenge, but we'll get through it. All right, good luck. See you tomorrow.